I do not like about Christmas. For starters, I hate saying it. I guess it's a Jewy thing, but the word kind of sticks in my throat. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. I get weary of those nonstop carols that begin somewhere around Labor Day. I particularly hate the ones with Vegas stylings. Silent night, oh, holy night, Oddly enough, I do get goosebumps at the sit and spin chorus, go figure. But my biggest problem with Christmas is the lack of serious meaning, other than scoring a big screen TV on Black Friday. Hanukkah, on the other hand, has universal significance. Because what living human does not worship fried food? Then there's the old JC himself, Christ the Savior. Actually, I do like a lot of what this pinko commie Jew had to say. Let's face it, Jesus was the Bernie of his day. I just can't bear to look at him. The cross, the nails, the blood, the thorns, ew. So, I had mixed feelings when our friends Donnie and his wife Terry invited us and a bunch of other folks to go with them and attend midnight mass. Now, Donnie is the spiritual leader of a lefty humanist Jewish community called Macum, but one of his best friends is Father Ian. Father Ian is Welsh, and he is the canon at St. Thomas the Apostle on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm not really sure what a canon is exactly, but I think it means he's like the CEO of that particular church, the boss priest. Anyway, it's late, it's cold, we had a big dinner, I have 42 episodes of the Mindy Project queued up at home. How long is this mass thing going to take? I'm not really in the mood, but we already said yes because we figured it's a free show, so why not? On the drive over, Terry warns us, now listen, we are invited guests, so behave yourselves, okay? What does she mean by that? The church looks festive, sparkling lights, pine garlands, huge velvet bows, bunches of candles. I'm wearing a bright red top because if you are a fish out of water, you should try at least to be fashion appropriate. The very friendly ushers escort us down, our group of 6, down to a reserved pew. It is the front row, the VIP spot. Tonight, it's the Jewish section. I sense everybody staring at us as Father Ian rushes over to greet Donnie with a warm hug, and then he greets us all individually. Merry Christmas. Then, oh, give me a break, all the other priests come rushing over to greet us. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. What have I gotten myself into? We finally sit down, and the first thing my husband Benny does is reach over to a pine garland, rub a few needles, smell his fingers, and report to me, fake. Terry shoots us a warning look. The service begins, and there's the usual annoying standing up and standing down and sitting and worst of all, kneeling, which is not only annoying, it is painful. And there's way too much incense, suffocating clouds of incense. But I do like the robes, and I do like the music, although it's not sit and spin quality. And I like the sense of theater and pageantry and ancient rituals. And then they walk down the aisle carrying a doll that represents the infant Jesus, and he's being held high up in the air so that everyone can see him. And I think, okay, now I get it. That's what this Megillah is all about. They're celebrating a newborn child, a pure and innocent babe. Forget that nasty crucifix. This is an image I can relate to. But while I'm starting to be glad I came, but as I'm getting cheerier and cheerier, Terry and Donnie, particularly Terry, are getting angrier and angrier as they compare the behavior of these Gentiles to that of their own congregation. Look how nice these people are. Look how respectful. They're not talking, they're not on their phones, they're not complaining that it's too hot or too cold. Then the sermon begins. Oh, this is always my worst moment at any religious event. I remember one rabbi, 12 ways to be a better person. Number 1, don't ever say anything bad about someone because you wouldn't like it if they said something bad about you. Number 2, oh, shoot me now. Father Ian begins his sermon by acknowledging the presence of our dear brother Donnie. And again, all eyes are on the front row of the VIP Jews. I am so glad I wore that red top. The theme of Father Ian's sermon is kindness. The world needs much more of it. We must each remember to practice kindness every single day of our lives. Okay, pretty basic stuff, not very complex. A notion that is as pure and sweet and simple and innocent as a newborn child. And it resonates with me because I know that I am not kind enough. I am judgy, I am impatient, I am opinionated. I do not suffer fools gladly. In other words, I am a proud New Yorker. But I'm going to change. When I am annoyed with Benny for refusing to follow Waze and choosing the longest route when I'm late for an audition, I will take a breath and I will remember that Benny does all the driving. When I'm exasperated with my brother-in-law for constantly disrupting conversations to make lame wisecracks and weak puns, I will take a breath and remember that my brother-in-law, when he comes over, fixes everything in the house that needs fixing. When I go ballistic, listening to that creature in the White House, spewing untrue and ignorant and petty and woman-hating and narcissistic cow dung, I will take a breath and try and remember well, anyway, in keeping with Father Ian's sermon, I decide to perform a radical act of kindness. I decide to bring a box of holiday cookies to a group of homeless people who hang out at our local park. Now, truth be told, I really don't like having these vagrants there. I mean, they're raggedy, they're filthy, they're scary, and the cops told us that one of them was probably the one who burglarized our home. But I'm trying to be more compassionate, and I go into a technicolor fantasy about taking the high road and approaching them and making friends, and a couple of weeks later, there's a box on my front door containing all the stolen jewelry and iPad and checkbooks and house keys and car keys, and there's a note inside the package saying, "Hey lady, thanks for the cookies." And so, moved to tears at the thought of my own goodness, I march over to the park, and when I get there, I discover that in the heat of my weepy orgasm of self-love, I forgot to pack the cookies. Which is a good thing, because when I pass the raggedy, scary homeless people, I realize, what was I thinking? I would never have had the courage to approach them. I failed. Now, some folks would say, it doesn't matter, it's the thought that counts. And those folks would be fucking morons, because, hello, it is not the thought that counts. It is the deed that counts. I am morally bankrupt. But I still believe in Father Ian's message. Be kind, be gentle, be tolerant. And I intend to keep trying. Like right now, when I say to you, with all the clarity I can possibly muster, Merry Christmas.